What's going on, everybody? C4 here today, continuing with my bold predictions for the upcoming NFL football season and how we're doing this series. I guess it's a series. Everything's a series nowadays. We're going by division. We did the AFC East. If you haven't checked that out, go do so right now. But today we're going to be talking about the AFC North and dropping some hot takes and some predictions. So we're going to be ranking all four teams with their records, their ceiling, their floors, and then going through each individual team and talking a little bit about them. That's the AFC North. So the key thing with this is if I shit on your team, don't take it as I hate you. I hate you in particular, and I hate your team. It's just my opinion, and rather, try to come on in the comments and try to blast some ass. Maybe just open up a discussion. Say why you think I am wrong, not why I am wrong. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to be starting from number 4 and working our way up. So at number 4, we're going with the Cleveland Browns. I'm saying that the record is going to be 3-13, which is better from 1-15 a year ago. I think their ceiling, though, is 5-11. This is a very, very tough team to predict because defensively, they got lots of new weapons there. You got Myles Garrett, you got Jamie Collins on a new deal. Kirksey's not bad. Joe Hayden, maybe he could resurrect his career. You got Jabril Peppers, who's kind of a wild card. But then now you have maybe one of the most expensive offensive lines in football, kind of emulating what the Oakland Raiders did last season, and that gave them so much success. But my thing that I see right now with the Cleveland Browns is with Crowell, he's not a bad running back, but I don't know if he's going to be able to make the most of his opportunities behind that offensive line another year with bad quarterback play. I could see him, being the Rams all over again. People just say, all right, Crowell and Duke Johnson, two-headed running back attack beyond that O-line. That's what they're going to do. So let's just stuff the box. Exactly how teams stopped the Rams and Todd Gurley last year. Make them throw the ball because they can't throw it. Corey Coleman's health, there's kind of came into question a little bit last year. Missed a lot of time. He needs to stay healthy. But, at the end of the day, it comes down to the quarterback. And do they have a quarterback on that team that can make plays to get them more than 3 wins? Looking at their schedule, I don't really see that. But looking at their team right now, the MVP for me, I think it's going to be Jamie Collins. I think he's going to have a really good stat line when all is said and done. Be a guy because I think they're going to be on the field a lot. 80, 90 tackles. He's going to have like force. I think Jamie Collins might have a season somewhat similar to what Bobby Wagner did last year. He had a bunch of tackles. Maybe not 167 like Wagner did, but I can see him having a bunch of tackles, bunch of sacks, getting in on pass deflections, doing it all there at the linebacking core. Looking at the bus, I'm going to go with Cody Kessler just because it's assumed that he will be the starter. And if, anytime you have a quarterback that's the assumed starter, you kind of want all right, he's going to take over this team and make it his own. I just don't think Cody Kessler is going to do that, thus making him a bust. For the sleeper, I'm going with Emmanuel Ogbah. Had a lot of pressures last season once he started to play at defensive end. I think they're changing scheme. I wish I know that because now I'm going to sound like if I don't know they're running a 3-4 or 4-3, I'm going to come off like an unintelligent idiot. But I think they're running a 4-3 now under Greg Williams. I think Ogbah with Myles Garrett on the end, that's going to be a really good outside. I don't know how well the inside is going to do, especially with Danny Shelton switching from a nose tackle to a base D tackle. But I think Ogbah is going to have a tremendous season. Look at their first-round draft picks. I think for Myles Garrett, he'll probably get 7-8 sacks. I don't think he'll have as good of a year as Joey Bosa because Joey Bosa had a lot more weapons to work with on that defense. But I think he's going to have a tremendous season, a good rookie season. I think David Njoku, I'm going to say about 400 yards and 3 touchdowns just because of that offense. It's going to be tough for him to have a really, really good stat line. But I think, that stat line with whatever they have at quarterback, that is optimism to go forward. Jabril Peppers, I have about 25 tackles, a sack, and a touchdown. Don't know if that touchdown will be a fumble or on special teams or something gimmicky on offense. Yeah, not a whole lot there for the Browns. The strength for me, offensive line, and their weakness is the quarterback. I probably should do strength and weakness first. All right, so going to number 3 in the AFC North, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. I have them with a 7-9 record with a ceiling of 9-7. Really, it all comes down to the offensive line play. Their strength for me is pretty much everything on the skill positions. Their skill position is looking fine. Andy Dalton, when healthy, is a good NFL quarterback. Definitely not a great one, but he's a good NFL quarterback. They have a stable of running backs. Giovanni Bernard, Jeremy Hill, Joe Mixon. You're gonna be fine there. You have wide receivers. A.J. Green come back healthy. John Ross, Tyler Boyd, Brandon LaFell, Tyler Eifert at tight end. Those skill position players are looking mint. The weakness is their offensive line is going to be terrible. I think they're going to have one of the worst offensive lines. They're going to have one of those offensive lines that could probably rival the Seattle Seahawks. Looking at their line, you have Bodine at center. He's all right. What else do you have? Clint Bowling's not terrible, but I'm really worried about the 2 tackles they have there now. But looking at the Bengals, I have their MVP being A.J. Green coming back healthy, probably going to get 1,000 yards. 8, 9 touchdowns. He's going to have a big year. The bust, I'm going to have as Pac-Man Jones. I think last year kind of saw him regressing. He was kind of being like a fine wine there for a little bit. 29, 30, 31. I think he's getting ready to turn 32. So really up till last year, even though he's getting up there in age, he was still a playmaker. Didn't look like anything was catching up with him. Now the off-field issues. You got the age. He looks a step slower. I think he's going to be a bust there. In terms of sleeper, I'm going with Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon is going to be interesting. I think Jeremy Hill may struggle, and if Jeremy Hill does struggle, the guy they're going to plug and play will be Joe Mixon. Giovanni Bernard coming off an injury. You don't know if he's going to have the same type of explosiveness or what his availability is going to be. I think Joe Mixon is a sleeper for not only the Bengals offense, but maybe even fantasy football this season. Looking at their first-round draft pick, John Ross, I'm going to say about 600 yards and 4 touchdowns. I don't really see where he fits in this offense right now because everywhere I've looked, it looks like Brandon LaFell is ahead of him on the depth chart. So you're not going to play him in the slot because that's Tyler Boyd. That's a great spot for Tyler Boyd. You're not going to put him over A.J. Green. So I think eventually he's going to be competing with Brandon LaFell for that second outside wide receiver spot. And he might not get it right away. But I think, near the end of the season, the back end of the season, he will have a nice season. 600 yards, 4 touchdowns for a guy like John Ross. That's pretty damn good, especially because a guy like John Ross, I would want, if I'm a Bengal fan where you have injury concerns with him to play, rotationally. But while he's doing that, adding on weight, making sure that he can keep that speed by getting weight so he can bulk up a little bit so, kind of prevents the injuries from happening. I also have a prediction. This is the year Marvin Lewis gets fired. I think if, 7-9 for the Bengals, missing the playoffs once again, that's probably enough for Marvin Lewis and try to bring someone else in. Very similar to kind of like Andy Reid at the end of his tenure here with the Philadelphia Eagles. Go number 2 in the AFC North. I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens. I have them with a 9-7 record. I do have their floor, though, as 7-9. I can see the Bengals or the Ravens going one or two ways. Kind of the same issues that the Bengals have because, they had some turnover there. Looking at their offensive line, Yonda is pretty damn good. And by pretty damn good, he's usually one of the top guards. And Ronnie Stanley had a good rookie season. But outside of that, man, there are some concerns at center, at the other guard spot, and at right tackle. That is kind of concerning. Kenneth Dixon now getting a 4-game suspension. I mean, he was going to be a big part, I think. I was a big fan of Kenneth Dixon. But now looking at the Ravens, though, like I said, 9-7, which is going to be good for a wild card spot. I think they will get the last wild card spot in the AFC, which is a hot take because I have them getting the last wild card spot. Obviously, we're going to get to it over the Houston Texans. So that's where I'm at with them. Looking at the for the Ravens MVP hot take. I'm going Danny Woodhead. I think Danny Woodhead. I'm gambling against it because he is coming off an injury. He's up there in age a little bit, but I think he fits exactly what will work in that Ravens system. They will definitely throw him the ball. I think he's gonna be a guy. When all said and done, maybe 1,400 total yards from scrimmage, rushing and receiving, and probably 8 touchdowns. I think he's going to have the most touchdowns and maybe the most yards from scrimmage on that offense. For bust, I'm going Brandon Carr. They brought in Brandon Carr kind of as a Band-Aid in the secondary there. He was nothing special really at Dallas. Didn't have a terrible year last year, but every other year except that, never lived up to his contract. I think maybe not the best fit there for the Ravens. Looking at sleeper, I'm going Brashad Perriman, the wide receiver. I think he had some flashes last season. Everyone knows about the speed, but man, he has some spectacular catch if we bring it back to Madden talk. I think maybe this year I've heard some reports out of camp that he's looking pretty damn good. So I'm going to go ahead and put my bets on him being my sleeper for the first round draft pick. Marlon Humphrey, I'm going to say 2 interceptions, and one of those are brought back for a pick 6 because he is an exceptional athlete. I just kind of question his mechanics as a rookie, and I don't know how much time he's going to get on the field right away because I think they're probably going to go in with Jimmy Smith and Brandon Carr as their 2 starting corners. They'll probably work them in. The strengths, obviously, is their defense. Their entire defense is very well-rounded. Kind of questioning the defensive ends, which I slid that a little bit into the weakness category because their D-ends don't look that great. Willie Henry and whoever the hell is going to play on the other side of Brandon Williams. And their offensive line turnover. I'm just not a fan of anyone on the offensive line that's not named Marshall Yonda or Ronnie Stanley. But still, Ravens good enough to squeak in with the last wildcard spot. And last but not least, at number 1, I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers, 10-6, which may be a little low for some people. I think their absolute floor is 9-7, but I have them making the playoffs as obviously the AFC North divisional winner. Looking at the Steelers, their strength is for me pretty much kind of like where the Ravens were defense minus the defensive ends. The Steelers are offense minus the tight end. I think Jesse James is serviceable, but obviously the Ladarius Green experience didn't work. I think Jesse James is not really the outlet that they need at tight end to kind of complete it. He's not bad, but I just don't think he's going to be a game changer. And you want a game changer, try to get all of them in every position. But their offense, everyone else. Offensive line is great. Running back, wide receiver stable. Everything looks nice there. Their weakness for me is their secondary. They're a team that doesn't really have a lot of glaring weakness. I'm just going to go with, you have old guys that are peaking, versus guys that are on the downturn. I think guys like Mike Mitchell and William Gay, they're starting to slow down a little bit. And then you obviously have Artie Burns and Sean Davis that are on the upswing. But I think that combination is not going to be elite. When you look at a team like the Steelers that are elite on the offense, you have to try to pick a weakness. Kind of like when we're talking about the Patriots in the last video. If you have to critique them, you have to be overly critical. You'd have to say that their secondary could be better than what it already is. Their MVP is going to be Le'Veon Bell. I think he's going to manage to stay on the field for all 16 games this season, which is might be tough. Their bust, I'm going Juju Smith-Schuster just because he was a second-round wide receiver. I think he's going to struggle to find targets behind Antonio Brown. And now Martavis Bryant, who's not using drugs, I guess. Sleeper is Martavis Bryant. Not really much of a sleeper. Everyone knows he was a beast when he was there last. But, I do see plenty of people that are talking, man, Antonio Brown. And now we got that new kid, Juju Smith-Schuster. Seems like, they're kind of sliding Martavis Bryant to the side. You don't teach a guy that's freaking a 6'4" Deshaun Jackson that has a great jump ball. You don't put him to the side. So I think he's going to have a great bounce back year. And look at the first-round draft pick, TJ Watt. I have him getting about 30 tackles and 2 sacks. I think he'll work kind of a rotational role with James Harrison to ease him in. And having a guy like TJ Watt who has the Watt genes and he can learn and kind of be an understudy to maybe one of the most terrifying players to play football in the last 15 years in James Harrison. I think that's a great, hopefully he's a sponge, I guess, to soak up all that knowledge and stuff. Maybe he can get just real scary. Get a couple fucking, I don't want to say gang tats because that seems kind of racist, but a couple scary tats like James Harrison. But there you go, guys. Those are my predictions for the AFC North. If you agree or disagree with any of these, please let me know in the comment section below. Be civil. If this is your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button, smash the like button if you enjoyed it. Until next time, Steve4 saying peace out.